Okay. I'll walk the Oh, that's
Today's Thursday, July 6, 2017, 5:30 p.m. Notice is hereby given to the City Council of the City of Alpine, Texas. We'll hold a regular meeting at 5:30 p.m. Thursday, July 6, 2017. City Council Chamber, 803 West Holland, in the City of Alpine, for the purpose of considering the attached agenda. This notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.043, Texas Government Code. If you have any cell phones, would you please turn them off or mute them? Okay, members of the audience will be provided the opportunity to address the council during public hearings and during action items. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium, state your name and address, and the ward you reside in. If you have a petition or other information pertaining to your subject, please present it to the city secretary. State law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue and not included on the agenda. But if appropriate, the council may schedule a topic for future discussion or refer the matter to the staff. And there will be no personal attacks on the city council members or city staff. And so I now call this meeting to order, and the Reverend Joe Beth McLeod will lead us in prayer. Please rise.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Joe Beth McLeod. I'm the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church and the president of the Alpine Ministerial Alliance. Let's pray together. Our Heavenly Father, we praise your name above all names and ask again that you would bless our city, our county, our state, and our country as we continue to celebrate our nation's birthday this week. We thank you for the freedoms and the opportunities we enjoy in this country. Please guide and direct all people in positions of leadership, our mayor, city council members and city staff members, our county judge and county commissioners, our governor, our state and national representatives, our state and federal judges, and our president and vice president. In your mercy, protect our military personnel, particularly those who are serving far from home and are in harm's way, as well as our State Department officials and our diplomatic corps as they struggle to find pathways to peace in a violent world. Oh God, please help us to use our intelligence, our best judgment, and our good common sense for the benefit of all our families, realizing how imperfect we really are. We sincerely ask your help as we struggle to meet the challenges and the commitments before us with wisdom, insight, and courage. Help us, we humbly pray, to make this community healthy, safe, and wholesome for all your children, both young and old. We pray all these things in the name each one of us holds most dear, which for me is the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all very much. City Secretary, do we have a form?
Yes, the quorum has been determined and the notice was posted at 11:30 a.m. on July 3rd, 2017.
Thank you very much. And we don't have any presentations or recognition or proclamations, but I kind of want to get off with with City Council permission and to recognize the Boy Scouts in the back of the room. They're here to earn their citizenship
In the community.
in the community.
Part of
So if you guys would stand up, please, and let's give them a hand. And I think I know some of those because they helped us a lot when we do voluntary work at the Legion. They're always there to help us. So thank you all very much, guys. And their leaders also doing a good job with them. And let's go ahead and move to, I don't have a report to give, so I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. We've got 3 topics to review this evening. Are you good? How's Mike? Thank you. All right. I wanted to first talk a little bit about the SCADA system that we use currently, a system called Wonderware. And the vendor that the city used when they deployed this, he comes out of DFW, Sipes, James Sipes is his name. He's got several contracts in the area, but hard to get immediate assistance. The SCADA overall is what we use to manage primarily our water infrastructure. So I know Councilor Salas and I had interacted a little bit recently. Councilor Escobedo and I have. We've had some overflow on that main tank behind our maintenance yard. Some of that is, well, all of it has been driven by some deficiencies in our SCADA system. With that being said, it was something that Jay Horry and I have been talked about for several months. You know, really, we're at that point in time where we've needed to migrate to a new system. Certainly on our roadmap from a 5-year capital plan perspective. But as I've talked with Jay, you know, we've got $3 dollars in the budget this year, these types of system improvements. And so, you know, we're going to move forward with the Ignition brand or company, and it's about a $38,000 expense. One of the nice things with this particular SCADA system is we've got the ability to integrate not only with our police, but some of the remote camera that we are getting close to deploying. And, you know, more than anything, you know, I think there's some visible things that, you know, come up, but this is all part of that rebuilding a solid network. We do know, for example, we're in a part of the country where we get more light trucks, right? So when we think about our attendance and our communication system back at some of our well sites, the SCADA system is very, very important to us. If we have a well that goes down, even though we have the capacity to produce 3.2 million gallons of water a day, middle of summer, heavy usage, we might be 1.6 to 1.8 million gallons. There's times we're having to move water up into certain tanks to ensure that we've got proper water pressure throughout town. So having that SCADA system gives us the ability to manage it through mobile devices as well. So in any regards, we're going to be moving forward to upgrading that. Ignition will also give us closer levels of support in a more robust company.
Eric, so Wonderware's in Dallas. Where's Ignition based out of?
So they've got a heavy presence in the Phoenix area, but they've got some, you know, we'll have more localized support. They won't have anybody certainly here in Alabama, but proximity between El Paso, Midland, and it's not just a one person, right? So it doesn't mean we're going to get a person here in 4 hours, right? But there's times we call James Sipes and it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so that whole notion about can we get support within a day or two is really what we're gearing for.
So this is a larger firm.
Yeah, much larger firm. And Sipes has been, you know, a nice fellow to deal with, and he knows our system well, but we do have issues because of lightning in the area. And you know, certainly some of it we've gone through the claims process and we've been reimbursed for it, but nonetheless, if you're going 2 or 3 weeks without having service call, that can be a problem. You know, moving forward with our 5-year capital plan, and we sent that out to council last week. You know, the charter, the request is that we send that out 90 days prior to the end of fiscal year. So kind of July 1st is our marking point on that. So I got that out this last year. It's not a document per se that is approved by council, but it really helps you develop the ideas around how we're going to allocate dollars in the budget for the following year. One of the things we try to do is do the drop and adds, right? So we take what we've accomplished this year, you know, drop that off the list and then add some of the new elements to it. A couple of key pieces that I really encourage Jay and Chief Scout and Megan to look at is as we get towards the end of a fiscal year, if there's some items that we can pull forward because we've got room in this year's budget, let's do that. And so hence like the ignition is one of them. You know, also this year wanted to kind of give a little bit greater dissection to council. And so that's why you saw that secondary write-up along with it that gave you a little bit more detail. That truly is kind of the words coming from whether it's Chief Scout or Megan or Jay Corey on why we need that as a city. So that was certainly prefaced in there. You'll be able, you know, we can talk in more depth as we get into the workshops on those, or if there are items you want to reach out to me individually on. And like I said, you know, we're really trying to implement some of these portions in this fiscal year if we can. You know, as we saw at the last council meeting, we've been doing well at maintenance and following along with what the approved budget is. We do have some capital items, or what I would deem to be capital items, that we can still procure in this fiscal year. So try to accomplish that.
Eric, did I recall, you've got the details here, did I recall correctly, you're looking about potentially using the lease agreement also for police vehicles?
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things that we've moved forward with is that enterprise fleet program, primarily on our utility vehicles. And then when we did the rollout meeting with Enterprise on the 27th, so last Tuesday, they also provided us some pricing relative to police vehicles. Now, this is new to the e-fleet program, and so they're not willing to provide the maintenance side of it. They'll provide a lease, but not the actual back-end maintenance. And so one of the things that we're trying to contemplate is, do you move in with a lease with an anticipation that you'll be able to put maintenance on it in a couple of years? Or do you, just on the police side, do you initiate an actual purchase? And so I think that's some of the stuff that we have to decipher, you know, over the next, call it 4 to 6 weeks as we set the budget. My sense is once Enterprise looks at enough data, certainly within 2 years, there'll be the ability to move into a full lease program with police vehicles as well. And ultimately what that does for us is, you know, as you think about some of the other equipment that we have out there, like we're about to initiate the transaction on the tractor that we approved in this year's budget. So our paving equipment, that's where we want Ruben focusing his time, not doing simple oil changes, changing brakes, things of that nature, because when you look like at this capital list here, there's several items on there that you don't have standard maintenance around here, but Ruben is certainly technically capable of maintaining, so that extends the life of some of the vehicle items. I'm sorry for the eye chart up there. I didn't know how it would show up on the screen, but we'll certainly be putting it out on the website along with the budget materials.
I want to see your new SCADA systems on there.
Yeah, and that's one we certainly would like to pull forward. But anyway, I thought it was a good program, good piece of work by the team this year, and realistic as well. You know, it's one thing to go out there with a Christmas list of saying, "Hey, we want $12 million worth of stuff," and that's just not reasonable for our community. And then the last piece I want to talk about is really where we're at with our website revisions. We, initiated with revised platform. Put their website up there if anybody has interest in going to that. But our new website will launch in October. But really, what I wanted to outline tonight is the primary drivers when we think about why did we change from the homebrew system to the new system. Well, financial transparency and what we're trying to do as far as getting those financial transparency stars. This new website will allow us to deliver reports in a way that we feel will help us accomplish that goal. Notification center and text email are absolutely critical. How many times do we have people that want up-to-date information on particular elements relative to the city? So this new system is going to allow us to be able to do that. People can opt in for message alerts relative to some of the different topics that we have. There's also a share this social media integration. So as people go to the website and they see something that's interesting, maybe Kaylee's posted an event on the calendar, people's ability to share that via social media in one stop, plus the enhanced web calendar, something Councilor Escobedo and I have talked about. How do we enhance the calendar on the web? Quick link buttons on the bottom. So when we get to that home page, there's 4 or 5 key things that we know most residents want to do in transacting with the city. So having those outlined on the bottom. One of those will be bill pay, because we're getting very close to integrating the bill pay for our water and gas utilities. And then really citizen engagement on some of the different web apps. So as we build out the site, we'll see more opportunities for citizen engagement. So all of these things, I bring this up because, it doesn't matter what council meeting we have or what workshop or what committee meeting, we hear the buzzword about transparency, right? I think we're all faced with that. You're not transparent enough. How do you be more transparent? Well, part of that is driving tools out on the web that people can go to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, things, I think, Megan's done a fantastic job with updating the reporting on our finances. Well, we want to ensure that not only it's out on the website, but it's not buried 6 or 7 clicks in. It's something that's easy for people to go out and engage with. So we certainly are pretty excited.
Who are you going to be your beta testers before you go live?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I think everybody up on the bench will have opportunity.
Yep. Let's go play, see if we can break it.
Yeah, I think we'll start seeing some of the early phases of it in the next couple of months, but the go live will be on. That's all I have.
City staff updates? Okay. Let's go on to the public hearings. We have none, correct? Correct, thank you.
It says none. I wish we would say.
It says no, it's double checking. Okay, consent agenda. Minutes, financial reports, department written reports, board appointments, etc. Notice to the public. The following items were routine and administrative nature. The council has been furnished with the background and support material for each item, and/or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by the city council member. In which event, the items will immediately be withdrawn for individual consideration in its normal sequence. After the items are not required separate discussion have been acted upon. The remaining items will be adopted by the one vote. City manager.
We just have one item on the consent agenda. Have a motion.
Okay. Yes,
I'm
sir.
going to approve the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been made second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and act on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And I will move to the information or discussion items. City manager. Councilman Stevens.
So let me kind of back out of the way here. So one, thank you all for those who showed up at our vision plan readout meeting on June 21st. I'm getting my way back here. Yeah, and so what I wanted to do was give an overview to council on what all happened, since many of us had the opportunity to participate at tables and see some of the activities of the 6 teams, but I wanted to give some feedback, and I took the action. I grabbed all the slides or the charts that we used that were written up by each of the 6 teams, and through the wonders of technology, the screen goes back on here. We'll be able to kind of walk through, and this will get posted out on the city website, so everyone has an opportunity to see what came out of it. So you'll see some redundancy in this, consistent with what was presented on the 21st slide. Data today. This first slide is just some vision plan background. There's certainly been a lot of discussion on the web and in social media about the vision plan, particularly the walkway. But again, we approved that, focusing on economic development. The Small Business Development Center at Saul Ross, the one who put it together starting last year, including the Center for Urban and Regional Planning Research at UT San Antonio, downtown area and tourism potential. In 2016, there was the SWOT analysis, including about 40 people. The 89-page report came out in August of last year. The presentation was made over at the Fishbowl at Saul Ross on August 31st, and then we had a report out to all of us in October of last year and had an overview. And it's been out circulating and doing its thing. There were 6, as a reminder, there were 6 key recommendations that came out of the vision plan. One was increase tourism in Alpine. What do we need to do to go with that? Second was improve the historic buildings and encourage reuse in Alpine's downtown district. Third was consider developing a special event center and farmers market. Fourth was enhance the sidewalks and street crossings for pedestrians, including the connectivity between each side of the railroad tracks, increase parking options, and then connect the city, which includes anywhere from sidewalks and the walking path and activities between Saul Ross, Coconut, the city, and Medina Park. So we put 6 teams together, and in the Civic Center, about 70 people showed up. I was encouraged by 35 people, so they want to continue being involved. So they signed up, gave their email addresses, names, and ways to be contacted. And as you recall, we went through these 5 items that night. What was the background, key data recommendations, the actions that the 70 folks were in discussion, and I'll talk about our proposed next steps for us as council. So they all voted with their feet. We had teams as small as 2 teams. That was a couple of people you can get around the table. I think Carl said the smallest team in Maryville working on the historic district, and they did a good job pulling their data. But it was looking at what did the vision plan have, and their action was, what are some key points about the recommendations? What are 3 to 5 actions? And then again, who on the team is willing to stick around and continue on and carry this forward? So what I've got now is 6 slides. Team 1, increase tourism in Alpine. And 2 major items. One was there needs to be a promotional plan at the regional, state, national, including international level, particularly because we have a lot of visitors that come from overseas. It's got to be multicultural, the business center of the Big Bend region. Since we've got an all-time high for our hot receipts, and are there incentives we council ought to consider for more incentives to bring more hotels in town. And then making sure we include in that promotion of the nearby communities. Then in terms of what is bigger picture, need more parking, need an event center, need to worry about business hours for many of our shops that close on the weekend when the tourists are here. User events, family activities, and then being able to attract a workforce that wants to go work and meet the needs of tourism. So Team 1, I thought, did a good job of doing plan all of these. Lots of good ideas with a number of actions to say, what's next? We're going to Team 2, who's focused on improve historic buildings and encourage reuse. You know, this is, in my view, provides great emphasis, what Carl's been talking about for some time. Redesignate the downtown or the historic district, designate a downtown business historic district, and then foster historic sites outside of the district. And as we think about, again, people come to Alpine, they want to see some of the history and what goes on. There may be some opportunities for us to consider when we look at hotel occupancy funds this next year, to be able to go support that to work that a little bit further. Team number 3, develop the special event center and farmers market. You know, need to move east on Murphy, you know, an opportunity to partnership with the city and Solwashington County. Farmers market is already together and has a location, and I was glad I was corrected on that because I was thinking there's still the one across the tracks, one on this side. Nice, there is one. Need to talk about local scheduled events, and as Eric's working on the new website for the city, is an opportunity there as we think about blending calendars and then getting it all printed up. And certainly there's like the walking path, the quiet zone is one for which debate and opportunities to go spend money, and we have to figure out how to make that happen. But a lot of people are looking to say, how do we go get a quiet zone here? We got 4 areas we have to cover to $250,000 to $300,000. What are the strategies to go do that? Team number 4, enhancing the sidewalks and the street crossings. Some really good input, and there's, I think, some good dialogue about bike lanes, APD getting out on bike patrols. Eric's been already talking Chiefs Gallons, I know about that. Bike infrastructure, bike tourism, and you know, one of the things as a cyclist myself, I see a lot of cyclers coming through this area because you know Alpine Market Fort Davis is a wonderful 75-mile loop. Now you don't have to go 75 miles to enjoy it, but it's a good ride to get around in that loop. Seeing around parked cars is a concern, and I know some of us who walk around. I've got some input, particularly on East Avenue E in Holland. There's some challenges as we address the issues over on 5th at the Sol Ross. We have other locations where this is a concern, particularly as it talks about safety and for pedestrians. And then I thought this was a terrific comment. Not all infrastructure for pedestrians are good for cyclists and motorists, but we got to find solutions that work for all. Going to talk about ADA, the Americans with Disability Act compliance, including strollers. Comment here. I know I've heard on my radio show about bicycles on sidewalks. Their point was keep the bicycles on the sidewalks. I don't worry about the safety at Murphy and 5th, and then I have a concern for parking at 5th and so on. So another great set of ideas that people have energy to go think about. If we're going to Team 5, oh, I'm sorry, Team 4, continued on. They were prolific. Putting trash bins together, recycling trash. This notion that East Avenue, E, and Holland are highways. We want tourism, we want them safe, we got to worry about 18-wheelers as well. How do we fund it? Can we get money from the state, or at least the county to be able to support that? And then, what are the parking rules for city-owned land? We all know traffic's gone up. One thought is declare that pedestrians have the right of way. We talked about shelters for safety, and then making sure we have this continued focus more on safety. Team 5, increased parking options. One of the things that Team 5 had was this big grid of all the parking spots around Alpine. And they looked to say, how do we continue to use the area near the Ritchie building? Some potential parking near Kasner, the additional parking areas across from the plane. Got to think about lighting and take into consideration dark sky, solar options. Can we get money from donations? Worry about visibility. How do you tie the sidewalks in the parking lots to make it safe? And this really, their thought is, we really got to focus on this first before we start working with tourism, so people actually have places to park. And of course, you got to be able to point people in the direction, because if you're coming in from out of town, people have no idea where to park, and it's a tough challenge. So having signage will be an important part of that activity. Team number 6, connecting the city. It focused a lot on the walkway, comments near the creek, but not in the creek, 3 foot wide, talked about different materials, a whole slug of options for those that have seen parkways, whether it's in San Antonio or Austin or many other cities have creek beds and they have walkways, and a number of great things they've gone off and considered to be able to put on the table. So, you know, my sense is, and I know you all were there in terms of watching, you know, people voted with their feet to go participate, and they also voted with their feet to head out the door when they ran out of airspeed and altitude, which is actually good. So one of the learnings for me is, because I did my town hall the next meeting as well, about the max you can get for any of these meetings, an hour and a half. After an hour and a half, we're done. Time to get out of there. And that was with City Council, this, and then Ward 5 town hall all at the same time. Let's go on the next slide, please, Eric. Because I think it really talks about what do we as council need to do. You know, I think when we get into our budget discussions on July 13th, we're all going to look and say, we don't have enough money to meet all the needs that we see from a city standpoint. But nonetheless, I think we can continue to support the discussions from a leadership standpoint and make this a regular item on the city council agenda. So one of my thoughts was quarterly for groups that are off working this, come talk, share, you know, what's going on, and if you like, I'll be happy to champion that and make it on the agenda, particularly because I'm working with the Alpine Downtown Association as well. We need to pull those 35 back together to go work on their teams, and I think we will make that happen. Ensure the ADA is engaged, and yeah, I know they're engaged, and it's great that Jim's here a lot, and because he's a key player of the Downtown Association. And then I think, and I know Eric has been already working with this team about looking at what are some of the things the city can consider as part of its 2017-18 budget that are aligned with the vision plan. So I've kind of dominated the discussion here, but want to kind of get it all out there. You've had an opportunity to look at it. Eric, any additional thoughts that you want to add before we dive into any questions or comments?
Yeah, I think one of the other pieces is I had the opportunity to chat with Greg post-meeting, is I think it's you know, the city management role, the city manager is going to have to be engaged with these small subgroups. You know, not only is it important to do those quarterly readouts, but I think, you know, because the city manager really pivots on the budget and the department integration, it's going to be, call it a job description of that city manager, because having the engagement of the people, you know, I was refreshed to see. It, you know, felt like 100 people in there. It was probably, you know, really, I guess 70 by the time we added up the names. Maybe a few more because some folks had left before they put down their names. It was exciting to see that volume of people show up with a level of interest. So capturing that, you know, I'll digress a little bit into the parking, because I sat in on that group for 10 or 15 minutes, and I was very impressed with just the back and forth and the dialogue. And, you know, maybe it's not one big parking lot, but it's several different ones across. And then we got to talking about, you know, the visitor center and how you have a smaller building on a larger plot of land that's really on the corner of what's really downtown district. So what are the options there from a city perspective to help grow out parking? And then tying in the signage too. I think that's when we think about tourism as a whole. If you drive into Alpine and you want to stop and look around, do you really know where to park, right? And I think the answer is relatively no. If you're a tourist, if you're a local, you know, you can park by the, you know, the railroad station and wander around. But other than just the side street parking, I think it's not intuitive for people to know where good public parking is. And so that certainly was a theme through as we saw multiple groups. And then I think the other piece that as a council and city we've debated and discussed, and that is the parking, the sight lines, how we move traffic through our downtown area. And truthfully, as we walk through downtown, I love vegetation, but I gotta tell you, some of these bushes are severe impediments to being able to see. I mean, case in point, the one on the corner adjacent to Plain. I mean, that thing is nothing but a traffic accident waiting to happen. And so we've got to work back with TxDOT and rethink about the right vegetation that's in there, and not just planting something that's comes in a 7-gallon bucket, but putting something that's already mature. So if you drive up in a car and SUV, you can actually see, and you're not impeded by a bush that's 12 foot wide. Because it's one thing if you're a local and you drive up there and you say, hey, I kind of know what the traffic flow is, but just imagine if you came out here from San Antonio and you're at this intersection and you can't see the oncoming traffic from the west, and you got a car behind you, what do? And so we have multiple situations like that across the city that we have to resolve. And these are not high dollar resolutions. These are things that can actually be accomplished. And I think the one last meaningful thing that I would contribute is that it's the capturing of the effort and the energy of the citizens of the community. And so there was over 70 people there. 35 have said, let's continue on. I think one of the core goals of city council and city management team is to continue to work with those groups and keep them involved and engaged, because what we have seen across the city is as more and more people are engaged in things, more and more is getting done. So it was a great meeting. I was very impressed with the quality of discussion, the volume of people who showed up.
I was too. It was very encouraging to see a lot of people in there supporting it, and more so that the whole council was there.
Yeah.
That was a very positive outcome. Looking at it from my point of view, is that we were all there, showing that we do care about our city. We do want to make it better for everyone, including us and our families and our tourists. That was a big. I was very pleased with it.
What table did you sit at?
I sat in with the parking.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, good.
And that's one of the biggest items, factors we have here is the safety in the parking. People blind sides, I think we need to also revisit where the new construction goes up. Instead of having it 30 foot right on the sidewalk, keep up even further out. And, again, if you're local, not that much of an issue. But if you're not, then you have to be real cautious about it. And some of the walkways had addressed the TxDOT about a year ago, but added more crosswalks. As well, TxDOT did a survey and eliminated some of those that we used to have. So I think we need to revisit the TxDOT again and say, look, guys, tourism, the traffic has increased, and we do need to be aware of the safety, not only of the locals, but of the tourists. Because there's, a lot of hit and miss. We had that accident down on, 4th Street a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago, where 2 babies got run over because the sniper got stopped. It wasn't a crosswalk. Yep. And so 2 babies got hit. So I think they did bring out some good pointers there on the safety. We can address that. And like you said, city manager, it's not going to cost us very much money. Just addressing those problems, and hopefully the public will cooperate. And I think we could resolve it and make it a safer city for our tourists.
We also need to look at increasing our patrol. If we can get more officers to be out there patrolling to slow down some of this traffic, oh my God, you think you were in downtown Houston, right? I've seen people, I'm going 35 and they're passing me at 50. I know that, and not just in our downtown area, but in the residential areas as well. It's got to be, it's an issue that we need to concentrate on our safety.
You ought to be able to do something to get people to realize that stop is only a 4-letter word. Stop. I mean, I see people going through stop signs all the time. Pitiful, man.
That's a big power thing needed.
Exactly.
So
This is a good start for us, and I think it's gonna be really, really good once we get done.
And you're right, all of us showed up on Saturday afternoon. That's good. People got stuff to do on Saturday. But we all came.
If we care about our city, we make.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
to do
you're right.
it, you know.
It's not like it was a spur of the moment thing anyway. We all had fun.
So if it's okay with you all, I'll continue to help make sure from a council standpoint, working back and forth with Eric as we head down this path, we'll get the next meeting lined up and start bringing those teams together.
Right, and, do follow up on this. If we don't do the follow up on it, it just kind of
Oh, yeah.
fades off.
Yeah, that's why they quarterly on city council agenda. We bring those teams forward, see what's going on.
Right,
Good.
Sounds good.
Okay,
great
thanks.
report. Is there any discussion?
That was, we just had.
No, I'm looking at
No,
that.
with us, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at that.
Okay, so. Let's see, Mr. Mayor, I have the next item as well.
You sure do.
Okay, so I want to have a discussion amongst us as council with regard to what we talked about last month here at City Council, and some specifics for training for board and commission members. So Eric, if you slide to the next slide here, and you, of course, you've got all these packets. So, a year ago, we started a discussion about boards and commissions, about membership terms and all that. We took action to expand the eligibility, modify appointments terms, said we go select who's going to chair them. We talked about attendance requirements, and the city council will review the boards and commission priorities for each year. So we're now in that phase with the election having been completed, now in the process of now to move forward. So in the agenda, as you know, it contemplates setting a date for training of all boards and commission members regarding expectations, Robert's Rules of Order, and TOMA, which we know is an item that's important. And I've had the opportunity to talk to many of those who represent Ward 5 on the boards and commissions, and they said, yeah, we could really use some training. We got appointed, we're off to work, and then you kind of dropped us. So can you help us understand what our roles and responsibilities are? And so that's really what the training is intended to be about. We go to the next slide, please, Eric. So this next one says, and what this was aimed at is trying to get alignment amongst us. Are these the right topics, or have we missed something? So, everyone's volunteers like us. We get a huge stipend for our participation here, $50 per meeting. The boards and commissions get nothing. So they're completely volunteers. But here are the key training elements. One is TOMA. I think the more people know about TOMA, the better we as council are, and the better our boards and commissions are. Robert's Rules of Orders. Many know about it, but I think it's worthwhile to walk through that. I think the third item is our expectations of board chairs, and this is Rick Stevens' perspective. And so Red Ink or Blood is happy to change this. One, I think the board chairs ought to set the meeting date, ensure all the members are aware of the meeting dates and can attend. So the board chair makes sure there's going to be a quorum. And if there's not going to be a quorum, change the meeting date. I mean, how many times have we all had people come talk to us about, hey, there's supposed to be a meeting X date, but there wasn't a quorum, so they couldn't conduct their business. That they come back to city council, the chair does, to discuss key agenda items for the next year. So I propose that after we have this session here to say I'm proposing August, that not later than September, the board chairs come back to us and says, here's what we think they would like to work on, and we bind that. That they work with the city secretary to ensure meeting information is available prior to the meeting, like we get our books, and that the information is available so that the minutes can be published again by the city secretary. And last but not least is coordinate with the appropriate city office who supports the board of commission. So planning and zoning analyst Robert Polanco. Every one of those boards and commissions has someone from the city, the airport, advisory board is making. So it'll be important to make sure that. So in my view, just delineating that, many of the boards and commissions already operate that way, but I think clarifying it for the role of the chair puts the accountability to make sure we have quorums for meetings. The next is expectations for the board and commission members. One is we got to understand the board charter, and one of the things we'll make sure is they actually have a copy of the charter for the board and commission that they're on. They get the information prior to the meeting itself, so they get a chance to review it. They attend the meetings unless there's an issue, and they have the responsibility of notifying the chair if they're not going to be able to. And then they'll discuss the relevant information with the city council, with the appropriate set should be city council member or city officials as needed. We all have representatives when there's an issue, and my advice and counsel to the boards and commission members who represent me, if you got a question, bring it up as the councilman. So when a recommendation comes forward from that board or commission, I'm already up to speed about what's going on, because that's the effective way in which to work it. They still come forward with their recommendations to the entire council, but if we're up to speed, it makes life a little easier. So this is what I would propose that we do, and I want to get your feedback to say, hey, this makes sense, or hey, Rick, you forgot some stuff, and this will make it easier when we have our discussion about, I think it's action item. It's 12, item 12. But I propose we set a date to go cover these items, and what I would do is put together an agenda, work with Eric, work with Kaylee, work with our city attorney to put a presentation together that I would get out to all the council, so you get a chance to look at it, and then invite all the board and commission members. So, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Good idea.
You want to have this one?
Well, no, so that'll be item number 12 of the action items. I'm just trying to get us lined up to say, these are the right topics, and that's what this discussion was about. Okay. With that, Mr. Mayor, floor back to you.
Thank you. Thanks. Action items should be accompanied by a brief statement of facts, including where funds are coming from as applicable. Action items limit up to 10 per meeting. Citizens are allowed to comment. Limit to 3 minutes after being called upon by the mayor. Citizens are required to state their name and the ward in which they reside. Priority will be given to the citizens of Alpine and those who own business or property in the city. Individuals who do not live in, own a business or property in city limits will be allowed to speak if there's time available. City Manager.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, item 8 is to discuss and consider approving memorandum of understanding concerning TCEQ requirements by designating Marshall McLean as representative for Brewster County to inspect all new replacement in addition to any on-site sewage facility within Alpine city limits. This request is come to us by a couple of folks that install septic systems or do repair and maintenance on septic systems. Right now, any of that work requires an inspection after the work is done. And if we do not have a memorandum of understanding in place identifying an individual who's a qualified inspector, then by default, that inspection has to be done by TCEQ. Where that becomes problematic is it's a representative coming out of AlpineCityCouncil who may be 2 or 3 weeks away from being able to come down. And so, I think of some of the local installers here. It's hard enough for people to get good quality vendors in a timely fashion. Let's not delay it anymore. And so this, Marshall, of course, in your packet, we included his license number. Jay Horry and I have spent some time reviewing this. Jay certainly is very comfortable. Any new septic system that goes into the city comes through our utilities office regardless. So we have full visibility to all of this. So just would need support from council on this.
He's already been doing this for the county. I was at the commission court meeting, but he was waiting for that. So he's already doing it for the county. We just need to have him include this part of the county.
So are you making a motion?
Just make a statement.
And he's locally also, so yes, sir.
So in the interest of moving forward, I recommend we approve the memorandum of understanding concerning TEC parameters by designating Marshall McLean as the representative for Brewster County to inspect all new replacement in addition to any on-site sewage facility within Alpine city limits.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just have a quick question. There there was lots of reading material on this thing, pages and pages and pages about septic, I mean,
Well, so that was by design. I gave that to you in case anybody were to ever question you about what it takes to install a septic.
oh, I
Yes,
No stone left unturned.
Jeez.
That should make AG happy then.
I think AG is very happy.
Man.
Any more discussion? Seeing no hands, okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it then. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And City Council members, Stevens.
Yes, sir. So, as we as a council talked about, making sure that we had all our board and commission vacancies filled, I thought I'd just put on the agenda to raise that question as, and that shows up as agenda item 9 you have in your package. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 openings here. And I thought it'd be worthwhile, maybe we go by each particular board or commission and make sure we're all comfortable, just kind of remember who those players are. So I'm thinking about, so we can actually have the discussion. Well, is there anyone besides me who wants to add someone to the board or commission where there's a vacancy here?
Right now?
Nope.
I mean, I will probably in the next week or two.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that's crucial. We need to fill those vacancies.
So I would propose, and I'll amend this in a minute as well, but I get this thing going. I would propose that on the Building and Standards Commission, that David Busey move from an alternate to fill the role to represent Ward 5.
I'll second
Okay? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now I'd like to amend that. Okay? In addition, in planning and zoning, the Planning and Zoning Commission has 2 at-large positions, and I'm aware that there are 3 people who would like to fill those at-large positions. So I propose that those 2 at-large positions continue to be filled by Carl Fleming and by Dick Zimmer. Okay? And you'll notice on the grievance committee, we've talked about this before, that our city manager had offered up Robert Polanco as the city representative. I had talked with Judy Perry, who was the former HR leader at Sol Ross, and she's graciously agreed to represent the citizens of Alpine on that grievance committee. And so now we need to get a council member in that position.
I think it's obvious. I nominate Commissioner Stevens. You're the HR guru around here.
it. I'll second
I'm doing fine. I'm okay. I'm doing fine. Okay. So with that, that's kind of the breadth of the proposal. But I want to be able to walk through and make sure we're all kind of comfortable with that one step at a time. And I think I've heard seconds to all that. So I don't know if, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you because you're probably going to ask the city secretary to walk through all that.
So you keep it up with all that. Okay. First of all, we have a main motion, correct?
Yes.
Which we did get off the table.
Okay.
And then we have to go on the motion as amended.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So the amended motion would be, we'll place the prior motion is that Dick Zimmer and Carl Fleming be the at-large positions on planning and zoning, that Dave Busey represent Ward 5 on building and standards, and that yours truly be the city council representative on the grievance committee.
The motion be made and seconded, so we're gonna vote on the motion as amended.
Yes, sir. As amended.
Okay. Is there any discussion? It's been seconded, so is there any discussion?
I do have a question on that.
Okay.
On the grievance committee, I really don't feel comfortable having a city employee on there.
They have to be.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we can certainly change the grievance committee, but that's the requirement.
right now.
Well, that's our ordinance. The ordinance says it's three of us in the city, citizen, and city council. And the rationale for Robert Polanco was he has no influence in work. So he has no other than three.
He's our most senior employee that has no employees.
Okay. Any more discussion?
You okay with that?
And I have,
It's just, I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with it still being a city employee. Only because if there's friction between him and somebody else that's an employee, that would just not be proper.
But he doesn't.
Whether he does or doesn't. No, I mean,
still for the city.
he still works for the city.
Well, if that's the case, then it's gonna affect the council because they still answer to us. So, I mean, either way,
I mean, I don't know, just, I've talked to several, like, I talked to an attorney in Stevens, and it was just not right. It was not proper.
so what was their recommendation?
To get somebody else outside of the city. I mean, like, you know, another person. Not somebody, not a city employee,
Then we have to change our ordinance.
right?
So we'll have to table this?
Well, we have an ordinance.
Right.
We don't have a grievance committee in place today. My
Right.
sense is we'll press forward, then we'll have a subsequent discussion about that if we want to change actions.
That's all right.
Okay.
And my question is, the folks that are involved in these committees, what are you going to accept?
So I can tell you, all of those in Ward 5 are, because I call.
Whatever. After all,
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was,
Yeah.
okay, we're good. So, motion was made, second. Any more discussion? So we're gonna vote on the motion as amended.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now we'll get back to the main motion. Correct? Because you amended it?
We're done.
We're done, okay.
I think we're done.
Okay, so we'll move on. Thank you very much, Councilman Stevens.
Okay, so then the next we have is item number 11. Oops.
10.
I'm sorry, 10. Oh, I'm sorry, was discussion, consider approving the selection of the board and commission chairman or chairpersons, or the appropriate word that it should be used to be chair. Chairperson, thank you. And there are a number of chairs in place today, but I would tell you this is one area where we probably need to put a motion on the table so we can talk about it and make sure we're comfortable. I would propose that the chairs, well, I don't know who all the chairs are. I'm a little.
So you want to table it?
Well,
So
so
we find out who they are.
I do think we need to get this sorted out, and we may need a short workshop on it from council so we can talk about it in open forum and then consider how to go forward. But at this point, yeah, I don't know how to go work it. I know some of the committee chairs, I don't know all of them. So, yeah, so we're gonna have to go work that. So I would propose that we table it to the next city council meeting, and in between, we'll get the information out about who the current chairs are. I think we as council members need to go form our opinions and talk to the committees we're most interested in. Because I've spent time talking to at least to two of the committees and got feedback from a number of the members that I know. So I have opinions on two, but I want opinions on the others. Okay. So with that, I propose we table the selection of the committee chairs to the next meeting.
Motion been made, second to table item 10. Any discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. We table item number 10.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're in a roll today.
Okay, now I think I've screwed up because I think we already done number 11. We did that as part of 9. We approved the grievance committee already.
So let's just. Now, item 12.
Now, item 12. So discuss and consider selecting a date for training of boards and commission members. I would propose that we select a date for training of the boards and commission members regarding expectations, Robert's Rules of Orders, and Texas Open Meeting Act during the month of August. Okay? And so that's the motion.
Give a specific date.
So I would propose that the specific date be either August 3rd or August 17th. Oops, yeah, August 3rd or August 17th. That would be the first Thursday or the third Thursday following City Council.
Just say the 17th because I'm going to be in San Antonio at a conference.
Okay.
On the 3rd.
Say 2/17 because then that gives them more time. We're in the middle of vacation season.
Not only that, but we have the second workshop on the 1st.
Ah, thank you. Yep.
So let's go with the 17th.
So I propose we do this on the 17th of August,
At what time, 17:30 or?
17:30.
5:30, guys.
Wait for a second.
Yes, I made a motion. Need a
I will
second.
second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that we will have a workshop on August 17th at 17:30, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you all very much. We'll have a workshop on the 17th of August at 17:30. You're gonna be in San Antonio, correct?
On the 3rd.
On the 3rd, okay.
Okay.
It's just plenty of time. Okay, you're on, moving right along, sir.
So, the next item is on the agenda, item number 13 is to consider approving resolution 2017-07-09 in support of retaining Amtrak services in Alpine. And I'd like to make that motion, and I would like to read the resolution as part of that. Okay? Whereas the city of Alpine has been served by railroad service since 1882, a little history there. Whereas Martha, Alpine, Fort Davis, Marathon, Sanderson are considered remote locations in the state of Texas. And whereas Amtrak is the most cost-effective and among the safest mode of transportation for passengers traveling in America. Just an aside, the safest is actually air travel. Amtrak is second, better than cars and many other things. Whereas the Sunset Limit and the Texas Eagle provide transportation to Alpine and the Big Bend region as part of the Amtrak long distance service. And whereas without U.S. federal funding, Amtrak will not retain service to U.S. rural communities. And whereas the federal government can use funds to impact Amtrak policies and actions, as they have done in many areas in our area, including rural and remote telephone service, primary and secondary education, and even including our airport. Now, therefore, the city of Alpine, Texas, hereby resolves to request that the U.S. Congress take the following actions. 1, continue to provide federal funding to support the long-distance passenger rail service that includes the Sunset Limited and Texas Eagle. And as a condition for any U.S. federal funding, require Amtrak take actions to determine approaches for providing railroad service to rural and rural communities that help reduce costs, yet maintains quality service, and as a condition for any U.S. federal funding to Amtrak, require Amtrak to engage directly with U.S. residents that utilize Amtrak long-distance service and include their inputs in determining approaches for providing passenger rail service to rural and remote locations. And further, as a condition for any federal funding to Amtrak, require Amtrak to report back to Congress not later than July of 2018 with a plan for continued support of passenger rail service that is cost-effective and reduces dependence on U.S. federal funding. Be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Alpine did approve this resolution as presented on this day. Yes, ma'am.
Can we do the typo on July from 25/8 to 2018?
Yeah.
Bring that up too.
Well, It was intended to be July 2018.
But it says July 2108.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah, that's, I can't proofread my own stuff. It was asked.
You were too busy with all the other items.
Yes, but yes, we can. Yes, 2018.
But I will second that.
Thank you.
I'll do that change.
With the change.
Yes, thank you for the change. A little background. So I went and did the history behind all this, including finding out when, we have railroad service here in Alpine. But I looked at the Amtrak budget. My sense is without federal funding, Amtrak's going to have to do some major cuts. They're now requesting $1.5 billion of subsidies to support Amtrak across the country. Last year's $1.2 billion, and so their numbers going up dramatically. When you look at a number of options, my sense is Amtrak is focusing on the major urban areas, particularly up the eastern corridor, and I think it's up to Congress to start taking action to look and say, how do they protect the rural communities like they have on interstates, like they have on phones, like they have on post office, like they have on so many things. At the same time, I think it's incumbent upon Congress to help Amtrak be more cost effective to pull riders in that use the system. Every time a train goes through Alpine, which is 3 times a week each way, 40 people get off or 40 people get on. So that data is very easily accessible. The two trains that go through here, one starts in LA and finishes up in Orlando, Florida. The other goes from here to Chicago.
Not anymore.
They cut it off in San Antonio?
No, they cut it off in one.
No, I'm sorry, no, yeah.
Since the Katrina.
Yes, it's Katrina. So, but still providing some great service. So, I just think it's one of the things we city council can do, and I think it's the right thing for our town.
I think it is the best deal of transportation. I use Amtrak.
It's your second
Say
thing.
that.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah. He's keeping us honest.
Okay, good. I use Amtrak a lot. And I gotta go up to, pardon the language, Detroit a couple times a year. I can go from here, 2,000 miles to Detroit for $148.
Yes.
I couldn't drive out of Texas for that. I mean, and a lot of people prefer Amtrak. I mean, most of us can afford to fly if we want, but I choose not to. I did too much of that during my career. I enjoy the train getting in there. They got a club car, they got a dining car, they got the comfortable observation car, comfortable seats. It's good. If there's people that haven't been on Amtrak, you really ought to try that because it is the best deal of transportation in this country. But we don't need to lose it.
And just FYI, if Congressman Hurd is going to be in the area in August. So if we can keep up with where he's going to meet, it'd be really nice to have the citizens come and visit with him on this issue.
It's going to be at Dairy Queen. I won't know the exact time.
Yeah. The DQs.
But it'll be devastating. We have a lot of senior citizens that can't drive long distance in inclement weather. And I just received a letter last week from a couple out of Marshall saying that whenever it snows and they need to go to a larger city, Amtrak's their only viable means of transportation. So, I've used it in the past, my family's used it. But it's a great connect for all these rural towns where people can get in and out. I know the resident has used it on occasion, but we do need to support it. We do need to get a hold of our representatives and let them know how to feel, not only just a phone call, but in a letter to let them know that we're supporting this. And of course, the city tonight will go ahead and will support the resolution. So I think it's crucial for small rural towns. Yes, sir.
Fleming, Ward 5. One thing that Amtrak could possibly do is review its business plan and try to save some money. It's just a lot like cities are having a problem now of going bankrupt because of pension plans. You cannot keep up forever giving a person full salary when he retires after only 20 years.
Thanks, sir.
Do you realize how powerful railroad union is. I worked for a railroad at one time. Yeah. Anyway,
Let's get back on the agenda.
yeah, right.
So, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the resolutions, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, thank you all very much, and I will sign it later on, tomorrow. Okay, and it will be sent to all our representatives, correct?
Kelly's already changed.
She's already came.
I talked to her this afternoon.
Good deal, Jay. You got the crystal ball. Okay, very good. And let's go ahead and go to item 14, city council member comments and answers. And we'll start with, since you've been talking, you want that? Okay. What? Councilmember Estrella. Yeah, we're starting.
Where do you want to go?
No, I thought we started one.
Yeah, no, let's go to this seat on the roll.
I just wanted to thank Council Rick Stevens for the candy for the parade.
Running candy for the parade. I had to buy my own candy.
I did too.
And the mayor for getting us the limo.
Actually, the limo was loaned to me. A good friend of mine had a 6-door limo, which loaned to me with a driver at no cost to the city.
A driver.
Yeah,
too.
only-
It was awesome.
And the only thing cost that was involved was I bought some candy.
Parade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for being here, especially people from Ward 3. And I'd also like to mention that congratulations to my wife. Tomorrow's her birthday.
In advance.
I too would like to thank everyone for being here, and especially Boy Scouts. I like to see that they're starting at a young age to participate in our community and be a part of volunteering that we have out there. They are our futures, so it's good to see that they're out there with, getting an early start. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Thank you all for coming this evening. It was a good agenda. Councilman Stephen, thank you very much for all your input. We really appreciate it and you involved us in a lot of it. And the Scouts, again, I'd like to thank you and your leader for being here this evening and the rest of you folks. It was a great July turnout. I thought we were going to get rained out because of the rain. Got a little wet, but it went on. An hour later, we all had a good time. So thank you all very much.
We have to table the executive session.
Executive session, correct.
So I move we table the executive session this evening.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? None, all those in favor, raise your right hand, all those opposed, like sign. We got table the executive session. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, it's not debatable, so we will adjourn. I am.